you need to be playing Deadlock.
Wait, they got rid of this jump pad. Oh shit.
Yeah!
If you don't know what I'm talking about or haven't even heard of this game yet, Deadlock is a new free-to-play game. Well, the game is still technically an alpha, but the game is so good that it's topping Steam numbers and has crazy good Twitch viewership. It's a new game made by Valve. It has really good developers like IceFrog leading it. First, let's talk about the aesthetics of the game. The game actually looks pretty great for a game in alpha. Now, Riot Games and Blizzard are more known for their bright colored and cartoony designs, but Valve and Dota are more known for their darker themes and a little bit less clear aesthetics. Going into Deadlock, I was worried that the aesthetics would be more similar to Dota 2, where visual clarity was a little bit harder to see, but I was actually surprised by the aesthetics of Deadlock. First off, the aesthetics are really cool. It's a 1930s occult feel. You are collecting souls and offering them to your patron, and the followers and minions are like these cool candle monsters. And this the whole entire theme of the map and the characters themselves are really, really pleasing and cool. They have really good voice actor talent as well, and comedic voice lines with the shopkeeper and all the characters. Overall, the aesthetic and feel of the game feels surprisingly nice, and I was very pleasantly surprised. And we have characters that look cool, like Infernus, and other characters like Pocket that kind of bring you that Umbrella Academy feel as well, to characters like Dynamo and Viscus that are like wacky. For a game in alpha, if you're choosing a hero, the characters have such a wide variety of pleasing aesthetics and silly designs that I think no matter who you are, you can probably find somebody that will kind of resonate with you. And and because the game's in alpha, over time the game's going to have way more heroes and things to choose from as well. Second thing, the game is hard, but not hard in a bad way. There's a lot of items and mechanics and things to learn in the game, but the nice thing about Deadlock is that it's fun being bad. Just the core gameplay loop of shooting and playing your character is really engaging and fun, and you'll naturally learn all the things about the game as you play it, and you'll have fun doing it. So I don't mind actually playing Deadlock and actually learning all the cool and unique things about the game. It doesn't feel as overwhelming as a game like Dota, where it doesn't feel like you can really start enjoying Dota until you start learning the game. But in Deadlock, you can intuitively understand, well, shooting and playing an FPS, and then you can build upon that with like the MOBA elements and learning that as you progress. But it inherently being a shooter at the very base level really helps people start getting into it. And then as you progress, you realize that the game becomes more and more of a MOBA. And that progression feels very natural and fun compared to a game like League, especially if you've never played a MOBA before. And part of the reason why the game feels so fun is that the movement feels so great and clean. If you've ever played Apex, the movement is reminiscent of Apex, where there's sliding around, you have wall hops and wall bounces, but you can also air dash and things like that. And so the movement feels very intuitive and clean and fun, even starting from level 1 in the early game. And because of the mixture of the FPS elements, last hitting and stuff feels much more intuitive and satisfying in this game compared to other MOBAs like League and Dota. The the sound design and feel and punchiness of the gun and the sounds of like the soul exploding, the followers when they get low HP, they start blinking, so it's intuitive of when you can last hit them as well compared to League and Dota. So it's much easier to start learning when to do core game things that are part of a MOBA. Another thing that's kind of embarrassing is that it actually took me quite a few games to realize the game was 6v6. I think a combination of just the feel of the game and pacing, as well as the map size, makes the fact that there's 6 players actually not feel overwhelming at all. Compared to a game like Overwatch, when I played it, I felt very overwhelmed. I felt so claustrophobic, and there was just way too many people in such a small space that I just didn't really like 6v6 in Overwatch, and I thought I would just never like that many players in a team-based game. But Deadlock actually hit that sweet spot for me and proved me wrong, honestly. There's just so many ways to position, both verticality wise and throughout the buildings, playing cover, as well as the map just being just big enough while still providing that cover feel because of all the buildings, that the 6 players just doesn't feel too oppressive. There's also more lanes in this game too, and just more space on the map. So generally speaking, the 66 death ball team fights don't really happen until much later, and a lot of times those fights are a little bit segmented off anyway, where people are trying to escape and taking like isolated 1v1s or 2v2s, even though everyone's together. Speaking on 6v6, uh, I thought the game would be a lot more visually cluttered with so many more people and so many more things on the map, but I was actually quite surprised, especially for a game in an alpha, that I wasn't very overwhelmed by the visual clarity of this game. Things felt pretty clear for the most part. There's some janky animations, of course, but compared to a game like Dota, where it's very hard for me and things kind of blend together, and it's not very easy to see what's going on unless you play the game a lot, compared to a game like League, Deadlock does not have the same issue for me that Dota has. Um, I think just a combination of the art style and the map being dark enough to where the characters actually pop makes the game a lot more easier. And the fact that the characters are more humanoid looking, whereas like everything else on the maps are like monsters and things like that, makes the game a little bit easier for me to actually see and understand what's going on. Now, if you're anything like me, you might be wondering, can I even run the game? I'm playing on a potato PC. Uh, the game is pretty terribly optimized for an alpha, so you're gonna have to be playing on pretty low graphics if you want to be able to get a decent amount of frames. But it's to be expected. The game is an early alpha, and they're patching it regularly and going to be optimizing it. So I wouldn't worry too much. I'm very sensitive to frame rate, and so I hate playing any games where my PC doesn't get 140 40 hertz and above. But this game, even when my PC was dropping to like 60 when because I was playing on too high of graphics, I was still loving the game and kept wanting to play it, which is very rare for me because I just don't touch anything that I just can't get frames on when I'm playing. So I wouldn't worry too much about the frames. There's some videos out there where you can check from other content creators that will show you how to increase your frame rate. So just check those out and you should be able to be fine even with a worse PC. Now, this game kind of feels like the perfect love child of Dota, Overwatch, and Apex. It has the creativity of a MOBA and complexity of Dota, where you can combine all sorts of types of items. The map has so many things to do on it, neutral objectives, breakable objects, things like that. But it also has the great fight feel that originally made Overwatch so popular and the freedom of movement that people that are familiar with Apex brings. I think it is really good at taking all the best elements of each of those games and jamming it into this one amalgamation of a different game. And yeah, going back to the MOBA aspect, there are a lot of items in this game. I when I first started, I was like, what do I even build? It's very overwhelming at first, but luckily there's a build finder in the game that's really easy to use. And so as long as you go to the top right of the shop, you can go browse builds and take builds from people that have been playing the game way longer and just copy them from left to right on each row. And you can get started right away. And then naturally, as you play and get more comfortable with the game, you'll learn what items do and understand how those characters work, and you can make decisions for yourself. Items in this game feel much nicer. I've played both Dota and League of Legends, and League of Legends is a lot more stifling with your build creativity. Whereas games like Dota, there are so many ways that you can build or play a character. And Deadlock is very much reminiscent of that freedom of choice that Dota gives you. And so I find myself having much more fun in Deadlock when it comes to being creative and making my character feel unique. And characters are definitely very unique. I frequently caught myself asking, is every hero just broken? Every single time I played against a new hero and trying to learn what they do, I was like, this doesn't even seem fair. But I love the high power nature of this game. Everything is crazy strong, and there are so many unique item options that you can apply to counter them. Every character in Deadlock is very unique and has very clear strengths and very clear weaknesses. And so it's more about, can you exploit the enemy character's weakness by picking the right hero or by building the right items and then amplifying your strengths the same way. So if you're a person that really enjoys high power games and high power fantasies, then I think you'll definitely enjoy Deadlock. Now, one of the reasons why I really think that you should try playing Deadlock is that this game doesn't cater to everyone. What I mean by this is that if you like the game, you'll know really quickly. And if you don't like it, then you'll also know very quickly as well. To me, this makes Deadlock a really easy game to recommend to people. It takes a little bit of their time to download and try a few games, and if they don't like it, then that's fine. But if they do like it, then the game is also 6 players per team, so you can play with a lot of your friends, which is a huge plus. Now, about the game is more MOBA than FPS, but I think Overwatch players will have the easiest time transitioning. MOBA players have the advantage of theory crafting builds, playing around with economy and resources, but Overwatch players have the advantage of aim and infinitely better fight awareness. After the MOBA players get more time theory crafting and actually find better strategies as well as using stat sites to help with that analysis, Overwatch players can just copy those and learn those macro ideas, but MOBA players are going to have a way harder time improving their aim and actually learning game fight and game sense from fighting. Now, I've said multiple times this game is an early alpha, so don't expect so much. But for a game in early alpha, this game has a lot of quality of life features that I just wouldn't expect being here. There's a semi functional replay feature. I say semi functional because the replay feature bugs out a lot with character models or health bars and stuff like that. But for the most part, you can use it. It just takes a while to get it working. You can spectate pro players or like top matches inside the client. There's always like a rotating window of what the top players are playing, their matches and stuff like that, and you can just hop in and start watching them to understand and try to learn more about the game very easily without even having to go on Twitch or anything like that. There's a sandbox mode that has a decent number of options, so where you can test items, you can practice last hitting, and you can practice like pairing inside the dojo and things like that. There's quite a few things to do immediately within the game rather than just play, which I think is really nice because it allows players to freely try things and not just get burnt out on queuing up over and over and over again and actually be able to do other things. About the map is really cool. Like I said, the aesthetics of the map is very pleasing to go around, but the map itself, I think a couple people have complained about it, but overall, the zip lines are so fun and satisfying to use. Moving around the map doesn't feel bad, especially when you combine that with teleporters and other things like that. It's not like a regular MOBA where you're like, I'm stuck in this one place. Movement combined with the map objectives like teleporters and zip lines let you feel like you can do whatever you want as long as you know about them. Also, like the brickable environment stuff is really cool in my opinion. There's a lot of crates and vases and boxes and stuff like that you can break, and they drop permanent stats. For people that like to go around the map and explore or roam, there's always things that you can get value out of doing that, which incentivizes the player, and it just feels good doing it. I think Deadlock has done a really good job making core gameplay things that you should be doing in the game feel good and intuitive to even new players. So, regardless if you're on the fence about getting Deadlock or you simply just haven't heard of it yet, you definitely need to play this game. I've been having a lot of fun solo and with friends. It's free, so give it a download and try it out.